With kidney function, I did find another article. It has the 20 best foods for people with kidney disease. So just for kidney health, there are alternatives. And it does talk about like diabetes and high blood pressure being risk factors for kidney disease. However, obesity, smoking, genetics, gender, and age. I don't like how they use gender because gender is psychological. If the world can please stop using that misnomer. I mean, even in queer theory, gender is separate than sex. So it's your biological sex is unchanging, but your gender is fluid. There's a lot of psychological studies behind that. We can do another segment on that. It's literally two different things. They're not the same thing. And everyone keeps using it, gender as a misnomer for sex, including Healthline and other many other medical facilities too. And I don't like it. Anyway, those are also risk factors. Uncontrolled blood sugar and high blood pressure can cause damage to blood vessels in the kidneys, reducing their ability to function optimally. When the kidneys aren't working properly, waste builds up in the blood, including waste products from food. Therefore, it's necessary for people with kidney disease to follow a specific diet. I think they did clarify here. Yeah, so for dietary restrictions vary depending on the level of kidney damage. Again, it's very specific to each person, which is why these tests exist to see what is wrong with you and what the actual course of action is to follow after that. For example, people in the early stages of kidney disease have different restrictions than those with kidney failure, also known as end-stage renal disease or ESRD. Right? If you have kidney disease, your healthcare provider will determine the best diet for your needs. For most people with advanced kidney disease, it's important to follow a kidney-friendly diet that helps decrease the amount of waste in the food, and also referred to as a renal diet. So yeah, all these things help boost kidney function while preventing further damage. While dietary restrictions vary, it's commonly recommended that all people with kidney disease restrict the following nutrients: sodium, so salt, potassium, and phosphorus. And then it says protein is another nutrient that people with kidney disease may need to limit because overconsumption anyway, right? As damaged kidneys can't clear out waste products from protein metabolism. However, those with end-stage renal disease undergoing dialysis, which is a treatment that filters and cleans the blood, right, have greater protein needs. So again, it's all very specific to the individual. Okay. And it goes through like 20 different ones, and it actually gives relatively how much how much each of them has for sodium, potassium, and phosphorus. Just go run through the list: cauliflower, blueberries, sea bass, red grapes, egg whites, garlic. I like that they use garlic as an alternative to salt, for flavor, and providing nutritional benefits. Buckwheat, olive oil. So buckwheat and bulgur it has on here, both whole grains, but it has here many whole grains tend to be high in phosphorus, but buckwheat is one of those exceptions, and is also gluten free. I believe bulgur is as well. Cabbage, skinless chicken, bell peppers, onions, arugula, macadamia nuts, radish. This stuff's making me hungry. Turnips, pineapple. I don't know why they have that on there. Cranberries, shiitake mushrooms. There's so many different things that you can have on there. And I know I bypass blueberries, which are a natural antioxidant, so they are really good for you. Last thing I wanted to end it on was, like I said, from Harvard Medical School, it does go into understanding the stress response, how the body reacts into it, and how cortisol, which is another hormone that is released by your sympathetic nervous system during your fight or flight, with norepinephrine and epinephrine, and how it helps to maintain that. And I believe it goes into like sounding the alarm, how it actually reacts. The stress response elicits this response from your brain and your body, right? Your hypothalamus. And it acts like, I believe, it acts like your sympathetic nervous system acts like a gas pedal, and your parasympathetic nervous system acts as a brake, is how they put it, which I really like that analogy, because it gives a much better visual for me that it has on here. So, yeah, stalling a little bit. All these changes can happen so quickly that people aren't aware of them. In fact, the wiring is so efficient that the amygdala and the hypothalamus start this cascade, which it is like a cascade of hormones and chemicals, even before the brain's visual centers have had a chance to fully process what is happening. That's why people are able to jump out of the path of an oncoming car even before they think about what they're doing. And again, that's because our bodies are constantly pulling in information from our environment. Okay? There's so many other factors for this that are involved. I believe there was even a study on people that are clinically blind that they found, I think it was like, I want to say 17 or 27 different receptors all along the face, which they are now heightened, now that their visual acuity has been impaired, that still send information to where they pull from. There's a lot of great studies out there for this. As the initial surge of epinephrine subsides, the hypothalamus activates a second component of the stress response system, known as the HPA axis. This network consists of the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal gland. So HPA, that is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Okay? The HPA axis relies on a series of hormonal signals to keep the sympathetic nervous system, the gas pedal, pressed down. Okay? If the brain continues to perceive something as dangerous, the hypothalamus releases cortico. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. Corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, which travels to the pituitary gland, triggering the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, which is part of your energy system, I believe. This hormone travels to the adrenal glands, prompting them to release cortisol. And then the body thus stays revved up and on high alert. When the threat passes, cortisol levels fall, and the parasympathetic nervous system, the brake, then dampens the stress response. Okay? So just like I had talked about before, your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, it's meant there for a reason. Your parasympathetic nervous system is your relaxation mode. Put us back down to zero. Not be so highly reactive with that. Right? It's meant to improve relaxation, improve digestion and healing in the body, because it can't do that when it's tightened up and everything's restricted, because we have to move. It's preparing us to move in case something happens. And what this study actually goes, or this article continues on with, is techniques to counter chronic stress, because chronic stress, being continuous in that fight or flight mode of having that, which can be elicited by emotional or physical responses like stress, right? We can counteract that. So the relaxation response, what they were talking about here,
like
just
meditation.
So right here, the Dr. Herbert Benson, Director Emeritus of the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital, has devoted much of his career to learning how people can counter the stress response by using a combination of approaches that elicit the relaxation response. So, moving from your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, to the relaxation response in your parasympathetic nervous system. These include deep abdominal breathing, focus on soothing words such as peace or calm, which is another word for, it's just another way of saying a mantra, right? Visualization of tranquil scenes, so visualization. Repetitive prayer, yoga, which a repetitive prayer is kind of like a mantra. Yoga, which is like a meditation in certain poses. It's like a stability and meditation at the same time. And Tai Chi, which is like a moving meditation. So all these things, most of the research using objective measures to evaluate how effective the relaxation response is at countering chronic stress, have been conducted in people with hypertension and other forms of heart disease. I believe it goes even further into this about like how they did a study on, was it like 122 patients with hypertension ages 55 and older, and how it responded. And I think over half, I think it was about half, a little more than half of them actually had a reduction. It says here, relaxation response training and half in the control group. I guess I'll just read it. Researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital conducted a double-blind, randomized, controlled trial of 122 patients with hypertension, ages 55 and older, in which half were assigned to relaxation response training and the other half to a control group that received information about blood pressure control. After 8 weeks, 34 of the people who practiced the relaxation response, a little more than half, had achieved a systolic blood pressure reduction of more than 5 millimeters per mercury, which is Hg on here, and were therefore eligible for the next phase of the study, in which they could reduce levels of blood pressure medication they were taking. During the second phase, 50% were able to eliminate at least one blood pressure medication, significantly more than in the control group, where only 19% eliminated their medication. And then, it goes into like physical activity, support, things like that. I think I missed one, and I think there was another one trying to say like how it's Mr. Bean, like different things that you can do to help combat. It was like a whole list of activities. I think it was for endorphins, like how to release it. So a lot of those things, again, the negative effects of certain things like deficiencies like in endorphins and whatnot, depression, anxiety, moodiness, aches and pains, addiction, trouble sleeping, impulsive behavior, right? And then ways to naturally do it, again, how to fight these things and to release it. So first one on here is actually eat dark chocolate, which I know you're like, yes, eat dark chocolate. Exercise, and any form of exercise will do, but exercising in a group is even better. So have sex, I should say have safe sex. Create music or art, so fulfillment. Dance, have a glass of wine, get acupuncture, laugh. I mentioned laughing before and how that's healthy for you. And enjoy your favorite dish, get a massage, take a sauna, eat something spicy, try some aromatherapy, watch your favorite TV show, meditate, or volunteer. So when they do these studies like this at Harvard, again, this is only trying to see if there is a response for it, and because stress and emotions and your biochemistry and your anatomy, just your straight up anatomy and physiology, they're all so complex in there. Again, there's no cookie cutter response, and usually doing multiple things will bring you back around to that. And going back to this study where they're talking about your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, the thing is though, unless you are trying to apply that break from your parasympathetic nervous system through deep abdominal breathing, through visualization, through mantras or whatever like that, you're waiting for the rest of your body to try to catch up, okay? But because your cortisol levels are still high, and that's why it's harder to release a lot of those emotions, right? So when you're trying to release a lot of these, especially these base emotions, which are meant for you to survive, then you're going to stay stuck in that and possibly have chronic stress, right? The corporate world does this notoriously. They will keep you in that fight or flight mode. Why do you think people talk about when they're late? Oh my gosh, it's an either or. I'm either get there on time or I'm gonna lose my job, and they stress out about it. I know there was somebody that I was riding in a car with for a project that we did, and I was carpooling with him, and every morning that we met up, it's just like he was constantly in this state so much that all he would do, he'd be yelling in the car over things that weren't even affecting him at the moment, just because he was so stuck in that sort of mindset. And again, that's that corporate lifestyle is meant to keep you that way, and that's why so much chronic stress is a big problem, right? But doing a lot of those different activities to help us mitigate stress, to release more endorphins, to release more of those good hormones and chemicals in our bodies, or even doing something as small as biting a pencil or pen. That is something that's going to help us apply that break a little bit more often and a little bit more control over it, and not letting like all our emotions, which are driven or which are driving our sympathetic nervous system, to just continue down with your gas pedal. Like think of a car engine. If you just continuously leave it down constantly full blast, you're going to ruin your engine. Same thing with your body. You will ruin your body and your psyche and everything else that's involved, and you may not see exactly where it is. Okay? So that's where That's where, like, huh?
Doing it regularly.
Regularly, absolutely. So there's just so much that's involved in it, and trying to do more of these activities to get us out of that chronic stress becomes very, very important with just health, overall health, and remaining in it. And you know what, social media, it's a new version of it, and I'm surprised there's not much that I've seen, but then again, it could be that I just haven't looked into it, for psychological studies, the ramifications of it. I've seen a few of them here and there, but less about like overall effects of it, more of like specific, like this many people tend to say this or feel this particular way. I'm trying to remember some of the studies, but because again, it was very few and it was quite a while ago, and I'm more surprised of how hard it was for me to try to find more things about it when I tried to research it when I wrote that article. Was it last year sometime. Hey, thanks for checking out my video on here. If you like the content that I'm putting out, please be sure to like and subscribe down below and add a comment, because I'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are on this sort of content and these topics that I'm putting out there. Alright, until next time, stay golden.